hearing meeting. We're going to do a roll call for our membership right now. And then we're going to, when this is over with, after all the questions and everybody's had an opportunity to speak, then we're going to move right into our regular meeting. So this is the beginning of the special part of the meeting. And I'll do the roll call. Kennedy?
Here.
Schmidtke?
Present.
Riley?
Present.
Pedestris? Not here at the moment. Clodier?
Here.
Budney?
Here.
Van Oz? Fantastic. I'm the chairman. So all I'd ask tonight, when people do have an opportunity to speak, is all we want you to do is give your name and the street you live on so we have some orientation of where you're from. The first agenda, there's a handout there, sir, right on that. Sir? There's a handout right there for you. I'd like to just go through this agenda briefly and give you a few facts about some things, and then we'll move into the questions and hopefully some answers. First of all, the primary funding for roads in Michigan, and this is item number 2 on the agenda, is the fuel taxes that we all pay and the vehicle registration fees. So when that money is collected at the state, it's close to $1.5 billion. 39% of that money goes to the Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, for state highways. 39% goes to county road commissions, like Wayne County. And 22% of that money is split between cities and villages for their own street systems. Townships, and we're a township, they receive no money directly. So we rely on the county. The county owns our roads, and they do all of the maintenance for us, whatever maintenance they do. And they do fix potholes. Wayne County is responsible for all of our roads, and each year, they didn't do it last year, but they published 2 years ago the 2018 so-called needs list. And that needs list, we all have had copies and we've looked at it, lists their top 100 projects that Wayne County's got planned to make improvements on. A copy of that needs list is available at our DPS department desk downstairs and will be maintained at that desk for the public to look at. But as far as the need list, they list the top 100 projects, and there are no projects, no street improvement projects listed on that needs list for Grosse Ile Township. Annually, the county does between 14 and 18 projects a year. So you can see that from their needs list, and we're not on it, it would take 5 to 6 years before we could even expect, if we did get on it, to have one of our roads resurfaced by the county. Money is tight. All the county, I can tell you this, we've studied this enough to know that all of the counties in Michigan cry because they don't have enough money to do improvements. Who are we competing against? When you look at our road system and our traffic volumes, and thank God we don't have the accidents many other communities experience, but we're competing against roads throughout Wayne County, such as Outer Drive, and this is on your list, Greenfield, Merriman, Jefferson, Haggerty, 6 Mile, Wayne Road, Schaefer, Beck, Van Horns, Hines Drive, and it goes on and on and on. We're talking about through the Grosse Points, Mack Avenue, through the Flint, through the western Wayne County area, Livonia, Canton Township. We're competing with roads in all those communities. The competition is based on a formula. It's based on traffic volume, the failure of the road surfaces, and accident rates. One good piece of news is, and it's noted under item 3, the bottom bullet point, is there is $2 million that's set aside to repair the Grosse Ile Bridge. Whenever we know what they're going to do. I think the official word is nobody knows what their plan is at this point. We've been waiting for that to happen. And I do want to take this opportunity to announce that in the audience we have our township supervisor, Brian Loftus, and our township manager, Dale Rayom. Thank you for being here. So prior to any discussion about what we might do in the future, I just wanted to let you know a couple things that happened in the recent past. And the first bullet point says in 2010, we requested of the voters to reapprove a millage that was in place since 1973, and that millage was 1 mil and 3/4 of a mil. It raised about $1 million a year. That millage was in place until 2004. I just got on the commission at that time. In 2004, my recollection is that the township board at the time said, you got $4 million in the bank, you haven't spent it, so we're not going to levy it. Well, once the levy was off, it couldn't be reauthorized. One of the big improvements we did a lot of intersections throughout the township, and I recall Ferry at Meridian, Church Road at Meridian. Many intersections, about a dozen of them around the township, and the biggest one was the ramp that comes off the county bridge. You know how if you've been around a long time, you know how we redid the ramp so that cars were not trying to get back out onto Grosse Ile Parkway with a short term span. We had about 22 accidents a year. Half of them at that point were injury accidents. Pleased to say, to my knowledge, since we made those improvements, there's been one accident near the bridge entrance. So that was a big improvement. But in 2010, we put out this bulletin. We listed a bunch of road needs, and we wanted to renew that 1 mil and 3/4 mils. And as the handout says, the request failed by a vote of 2,034 to 3,229. No. Well, the commission didn't give up. I mean, nobody wants to ask for money, but the roads we felt needed improvements. So in 2015, we came back with a program that was a lot more money, but it included completing the water mains and upgrading several water mains throughout the township. We didn't want to be in a position where we were going to pave a road and have a water main under it that was 70 or 65 years old. So a big part of that expense was on East River and West River. There was a 2-mile section of water main where we needed to tear out a 70-year-old water mains that were 6-inch but corroded down to maybe 3 inches and put 12-inch water mains. So we now have, our plan is to finish that West River in the next year or two. We did East River last year, the water main, and so now we'll have a complete circuit around the perimeter of the island with that 12-inch water main. And the fire chief would tell you that's important for our normal usage. It's okay, but for fire flow, we needed to upgrade those water mains, and that was part of this. And that was in 2015. So we asked for $18 million to be spread over 20 years, 9 for water, 9 for roads, and we lost. It was a special election. It was over 2 mills, and we lost by a vote of 1,075 to 1,361 votes. The most common remarks we heard in 2015, and we went around and tried to speak to every group conceivable. We had meetings like this about it, and I personally went to about half the clubs in town and tried to speak about it. But the 2 comments we heard, number one, it's too much money, almost $20 million. It's too long a period of time to bond for over 20 years. And then the big thing was the Wayne County owns the roads. People would say, let the county fix them. This commission felt, after analyzing all that, we don't believe the county's in a position to spend money on Grosse Ile to resurface roads, at least in the foreseeable future. When I say foreseeable future, I mean the next 5 or 6 years. So that's where we seem to be today. And the other thing we've done at this point is you all received tonight, and maybe you want to turn the screen on. You all received tonight, one of the handouts, is a copy of some cost estimates we decided we would get together. And it looks like this. Bring it up. I think you have, there you go. I don't know if people at home can read it, but these 2 maps reflect the segments. And you can take this with you. And we just tried to say, well, if we were to levy a mill, I mean, we don't know what we're going to do yet. We're open to it. If we levied $1.5 million, based on the cost estimates for resurfacing these sections of roads. We thought we had to start with something. We have no plan yet what we're going to do. This is the very beginning of this process. Our hope is maybe 6 months from now we'll have a recommendation to the township board. So here's a list of projects that show you if we levied 1 mil, how far we could get. If we levied $1.25 million, how far we could get. And I do want to say the one item that was crossed out is we wanted to show Church Road both resurfacing it if we were to get approval to do something with the current width and Church Road with a widened width, 2 feet more than are there today. Because Church Road is a main route for the elementary school. A lot of people go to church on it, so there's a lot of extra traffic on it, and that's one road that's fairly narrow. In some spots, it's only 18 feet wide, and that just that's 2 9-foot lanes. Your typical lane today would be about 12 feet wide. So I hope that gives you a little frame of reference of what we've been through, of what kind of things we think about when we talk about roads. So with that, I'm going to open it up to talk about, or to get your input. And I don't know if any commissioners at this point want to add anything before we open it up for the public. Anybody?
No, you did a fine job, Bill.
Thank you. Okay, what I'd ask you to do is just raise your hand and come up to the microphone and just state your name and your street, not your address, just your street. So, and you can speak whatever it is. We're going to take notes and minutes. And Mr. Kantz. I don't know everybody, but I know Peter Kantz. So.
Peter Kantz, West River Road. You didn't talk about the plan to resurface West River Road from Parkway to Church Road. Can you expand on that a little bit? You did mention the 12-inch water line. Yeah. But I understand, in addition to that, there's also going to be resurfacing the road.
Yes.
Just sort of tell us what that is and what the time frame is and what we can expect when that is done.
Okay, our hope is the section of West River Road that has the old water main in it is from our wastewater treatment plant near the bridge north to Church Road. That's 2 miles. We're going to replace the old 6-inch, 70-year-old water main. And when we've had water main breaks, that 6-inch pipe is down to about 3 inches because of all the calcium buildup on the inside of the pipe. And we've had a number of water main breaks there, as you know. That contributes to the rough road. So our plan is the engineering design is finished. We have it into the county since they own it for their permits. And sometimes it takes Wayne County 3 to 6 months to approve a project like that. A couple of the issues regarding that is we decided to put the road under the pavement so that we could redo the pavement. That's number one. But if we didn't put it under the pavement, there'd be 40 big trees that would have to be cut down. And we didn't want to do that. Water main under the pavement. So the water main will be built under the pavement. It's a new plastic pipe that pretty resilient. They hardly ever break. And there's going to be concrete over it. And so we put money in our budget to resurface the northbound lane, which is the east lane. Now, part of the West River Road problem is we have a huge drainage problem. If you're familiar, one place that really stands out is in front of the West Shore Golf Course. I mean, water is contained there. It doesn't drain well. It washes out. The whole pitch of the road will be designed so that the water will drain from the east side to the west side, towards the Trenton Channel. We went to Wayne County and asked for them to participate in resurfacing the other half. We have money in our water main budget to resurface the one half, not the full road. And at this point, and I'll steal Lorinda's thunder, I guess, we got word yesterday that the Wayne County Director of Public Services has authorized the engineering staff in Wayne County to prepare what they call a local management agreement, funding agreement, so that they said that they would participate in resurfacing the other half. So it would be, and the project would be bid in December with the idea that construction would start in March and hopefully be done by midsummer.
Good. Just one more question in regards to that. When you put the water main in over on East River Road, you had an expanded shoulder, paved shoulder. Are you going to do the same thing on West River Road?
No, we don't have any right-of-way. And historically, and I'm not that old, even though I look it, but I've been around that long. But people 20 years ago told, and Ted can probably speak to that, he's been around longer, not that you're that old. But we've been told by many that many property owners have said they would not give right away because they feel that The fact is, the road's not on the center line of the right-of-way, the old platted right-of-way anyway, I'm told. Is that correct? And we would have the right to rebuild it in place. So it would be rebuilt in place.
Just if you can, rethink that, because there's an awful lot of foot traffic. You know, I live right on the corner of West River and Lakewood is the conduit for Jewel Colony and Westcroft Woods to get down to West River Road, and there's people walking down there all the time, walking and riding their bikes, and even people out there pushing baby buggies down there.
I ride my bike
do
on
a
it.
portion of it, you know, I think it'd be a great service to the community. Thank you.
Peter, the reality is that widening is very expensive. Look at the difference of adding 2 feet on Church Road.
I understand.
I
But
agree with
it's an
you.
opportunity to do it now.
I agree
rather
with
than-
you. And I would say to you, so for the record, it's my understanding we do have the room on East River Road to add that 3 or 4 foot paved shoulder section, because there is part of it by the middle school, but not north of Church. At any rate, it's a good idea, but it costs money. And I know my feeling on it is we've done traffic counts, and West River has one of the lowest traffic counts of any major primary road on the island.
Well, because it's in such bad shape, nobody wants
Probably.
to drive down it.
Nobody wants to drive on it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Real
We're
good,
always open to thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a couple feet in front of my house, I'll be more than happy to let you do that in front of my house. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Jack? Mr. Delphi was a member of this commission for years, and he was an advocate for good roads for years. Glad to see you here, Jack.
Thank you. I have a comment about 4B in the segments, and that's Church Road. Of course, I think that should be pretty high on the priority list. In my opinion, it should be pretty near the top. However, I see it's increased by 2 feet, and I think that's good. However, I recall in the past, we were about ready to pave that one time, and we had a problem with those big trees. Do you anticipate a problem with that again, or do you think that would be doable?
The answer is no. And here's what we talked about 3 years ago when we put the road program together. From the canal to East River, there are no trees we'd have to widen. We'd widen it off one side. More than likely, my recollection would be we'd widen it off the north side. Whatever ditch is on that north side, we would enclose that ditch. Easiest side to do, and no trees would have to be removed. But if you come north of Thoroughfare, which is the canal to Meridian, that section is very narrow, but those big giant trees, I mean, they're very mature, 100-and-some-year-old trees. But our plan was to not widen it there, if we can widen the most of it, but to save those trees. That's value to those people who live there and bought that property. And our plan has always been to just redo the pavement that's there. And then that section, we know that the edge of the pavement is eroded. Many places there's several chunks of pavement missing. And our plan would be to just rebuild that in place, not widen it there.
How about the priority? Is this this apparently is your preference by priority of roads?
It would be the third. Well, we haven't set a priority yet, but our thinking was that number one, Meridian is the most heavily traveled road, very bumpy from Parkway north. Another section of road that's very dangerous, and actually more dangerous than Church. If you ever ride your bicycle or push a baby buggy or anything on East River Road, which a lot of people do because they get to look across the river, you can't ride a bike at night there. It's just too dangerous, aside from it being dark, but you don't see the chuck holes. I mean, even during the day, you have to meander through them. So East River would be second, and third would be Church Road. That was at least what when we put with the engineers, based on traffic volumes and based on condition of the roads. Church today actually is in better condition. I mean, it holds together better than East River.
Thank you.
Kyle, you had your hand up.
Bill Heil. I live on East River Road. Conversation here about repaving half a lane and putting a new water pipe under that. I'm wondering about the drainage situation. We have old drainage pipes. And what's on my mind in the question, I might ask John or someone who knows this, our limestone is subject to erosion. We have these pipes that are laid, and that, in my mind, they're laid with a certain precision because they have to have a certain angle that they're laid at so that they will work. But if we have our subsoil, our foundations shifting, we assume that those drain pipes are as old as our water pipes. And if those drain pipes are under that road, are we going to have to tear up the road not because we've put new water pipes in, but because we have to do the drainage pipes as well? Would we be ahead to consider, and I know we might be scaring the public at first with this, but doing them both at the same time? We'd only repave a road once.
When you talk about drain pipes, you're talking about draining your property?
I'm talking about an abstract concept of runoff water or sewage water, what you get from your laundry. We have to carry that water off somewhere, and that pipe lays there. It sits on, has been carefully embedded and sits there. And I assume that with time they deteriorate too, and that sinking of our ground, I've seen a lot of places where we have sinkholes. And if you give 70 or 80 years to those pipes, haven't they encountered that too?
If it's from your laundry, it should go in the sanitary sewer.
Well,
but the storm sewer,
I'm not sophisticated.
If you're draining your property under the road, John, you can address this, but my speculation would be that if we encounter a pipe, or if a resident says, I got a pipe under there, now we're not going to tear the whole road up. All these projects, what they include, I should have said this earlier, we're talking about, you've seen on the expressways where they mill asphalt pavement, these milling machines.
Sure, the workings.
They're going to mill off, and a lot of projects they mill 2 or 3 inches. What we want to do is a permanent fix. So we're talking about, in most cases, milling 4 inches for these roads. And that would give us a 20-year plus fix.
On the road?
The roads. So that's what we're talking about doing. That's what these cost estimates represent. And we don't have a lot of storm drainage built into that. If you have a drainage issue or problem, before we
saying that.
Hear me out. Well, I don't know. Okay, so I'll ask John to jump in here. That's what our approach is going to be. The other thing we're going to do is do base repairs. So there's sections that are really bad. We've got in the budget, in these cost estimates, money. The engineers went out and estimated so many square feet at this location, where we would go a little deeper and do a base repair patch, then after we've done the milling, and then resurface it with 4 inches. Ted, you had your hand up.
Just a couple of comments to address Bill. Grosse Ile has very few storm drains as storm drains. We do have a few. Most of them that we have are also under the guidance or auspice of Wayne County. They're Wayne County drains. But the problem we're having on, for example, West River Road is the road pitch needs to be addressed, which will be addressed at the time, because what's happening is the water is coming off the property and staying alongside the road, freezing, thawing, causing a deterioration. In those areas where we have an issue with some draining, we'll probably facilitate that with a pipe across the road. But we're not going to be putting in storm drains. And there are no storm drains there now, except off the golf course.
I guess, Ted, what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to cut you off, could I be heard right now? I know these microphones are a bit of an issue. We have pipes that drain stuff away. There might be one set for sewage and others for gray water. I'm not sophisticated enough to discuss that. What I'm saying are these pipes are as old as our water pipes, and they're sitting there, and I believe that they would be subject to some kind of wear and tear from settling soil over time. And if they are in the proximity of water pipes that we're replacing, and we haven't done much to them and have no plan to do so, and we're proud of the fact that we've saved the road from being torn up because we replaced the water pipes, are we not going to someday have to tear it up to replace the sewers or the stormwater? That other set of pipes are important. And I'm of the opinion from conversations I've had years ago that those pipes need attention. I'm not pulling this out of my ear.
You have any comment, John?
Most of the sanitary along West River Road is in very good shape. We televise it every couple of years to be sure it's in good shape. And if there was a need to repair, they have technology where you don't have to dig up the road. You can actually put a lining on the inside of the pipe from above ground. So you would not have to destroy your new road.
And that would work for other drainage pipes of various sorts all over the island.
Correct. And like Ted said, there's very few storm drains on West River Road. Now, the main interceptor sanitary sewer is under the road, but it's in good shape.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, please come up. Just your name and what street you live on.
I'm Diane Mathias. I live on Jewel Court, which is off of Byramar, between Meridian and West River Road. And just in regards to like the traffic, it's at least 5 years or longer that I don't travel West River Road anymore between Bridge and Byramar because of the condition of northbound lane. And in the beginning, it was just when it rained hard and you couldn't see the potholes. But it's so bad now that you travel on the line between the two lanes, or you travel over into the southbound lane when no other traffic's coming. So maybe twice this year I've traveled that road. So instead, I'm doing wear and tear on Meridian. And if other people are doing the same thing, Meridian is getting more traffic because people don't want to travel northbound on West River Road. So I've been anxious, and I have actually voted for the millage, at least the last time for sure. I don't remember 2010 for sure, but I know the last one I voted for because I heard other communities have done it, and it's because there isn't enough money in Wayne County. And I'm thinking we want to promote this community, and if you don't have good roads, I don't know how you're going to do that. And I've reached a point with West River Road, it was almost like, oh, just tear it all up and make it dirt and grade it periodically because it'd be better than what it is right now.
Thank you for your comments. And reminded me that one thing I should mention, I'm trying to give information out here tonight. Even the cities around here, cities in southeast Michigan and everywhere in the state that get their money back from gas taxes, they do not have enough money to resurface roads of any significance. I recall in the last couple of years, Riverview went to its voters and got 3 mills approved for 10 years. Allen Park got 2 mills approved for 10 years 2 years ago when we went out. Southfield, big city, they had 2 mills. They had a $100 million bond issue to fix their roads. It was approved by their voters. I'm aware that Farmington Hills got $1.5 million approved. And of course, you take cities like that. I know Farmington Hills, their tax base is such that when they levy a mill, it raises $3 million. Here on the island, when we levy a mill, it raises $600,000. So all these cities have gone off, in addition to what is fuel tax money that's coming into them, and raised money to fix roads because it's gotten so bad. But thank you very much. Those are very good comments.
And I just, and I've also noticed southbound Meridian, the west half of southbound, if you went down the middle, like you were talking about West River and that stuff, I mean, that's getting terribly bad. You're riding close to the yellow line to stay out of everything that's been patched so much, and that's from Byramar all the way to Macomb, to Macomb at least. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who's next? Yes, sir, come up.
Hi, Jason Smith, East River. I've got a few questions, and forgive me of my ignorance in this area. I'm not real clear on how certain things work, but the one thing that does stick out, townships receive no road funds. What does it take for us to become a city, or am I looking at it another point of view where maybe we do receive road funds?
Well, that's a whole nother sticky wicket to raise.
And again, forgive my ignorance for it, but I'm just very
The answer
curious.
to that would be very lengthy, probably.
If you become a city, I hate to jump in. If you become a city, it's relatively easily, we have, 13?
Brian, you probably should come up to the mic. I don't know that we want to digress into that subject, but
Well,
if try to answer it once.
Money, I think we should digress into it.
If he has a question, I'm sure others do out there. When the state was trying to push their, I think it was Proposal A or Proposal 1 a year or so ago, to raise incredible amounts of money for road repairs, and it was dead in the water. But we had Pat Somerville here, and we asked him about reversing the McNitt Act, the act, what they would call Act 51. That's the one that took township roads under the county auspices so that the counties would maintain them. And of the 1,240 townships in Michigan, probably 1,200 of them are just fine with the way roads are funded within the state. So, yes, we could become a city. We would get, and I think Dale and I ran the numbers, some 400, 500,000 a year in road repair. That would repair one half of one of our, I'm going to say, I think we have 13 internal bridges, one half of one bridge one time. So we have a huge internal infrastructure. The smooth roads are nice. If we lose one of those bridges, you know, we're talking a couple $1 million. The county, hopefully, would come in, because now we have a real safety factor, a real life-threatening or life-impacting event like the County Bridge 382, the so-called free bridge, which is anything but. So, yeah, we could become a city, but all of a sudden now we have 13 bridges that, I think that was the numbers I counted them internally. If it's not right, it's pretty close, that we are solely responsible for. When Gibraltar took over their bridges, not sure how this transpired, this is from Derek, that they made sure the county had all those bridges repaired and ready to go forever before they took the rest of their roads. So it's a bigger question than just in our situation. We're a very unique community. We're Michigan's only island township. You know, were we to become a city, we'd be a very unique city also, with stuff we're just probably not thinking about taking over right now. I know it's a long answer to the question, but
I'm curious just because when I see that, it sticks out.
So. This is something we talk about, and we try to peel back that onion, because we're trying to do the best for everybody here. Hopefully, you know, with your commission here, we're going to get the best going for us. So anyway, you know a little bit more than you did before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Of course. Question 2 comes into the cost. I voted against the bike trail, and I voted against it because I looked at what it would cost me to pour cement in front of my house, and it was less than I was going to pay with the millage over a period of time to have blacktop in front of my house. I looked at this again, and just quick math, I'm looking at $10 a square foot for resurfacing asphalt, and I know we can do cement for $6 a foot. Why is the cost so outrageous? Where do we get these estimates?
I don't know where you're getting your calculations from.
I'm just calculating
I'm not
off
prepared
your
to
math.
answer that.
Well, who would be able to answer that?
Well, our engineers.
Okay.
There's a lot of factors involved in that.
Engineers are here.
So if you want to sit down before you leave tonight, you can give the phone number, and I'll make arrangements for
Yeah, I'm just very curious. Again,
those costs are not outrageous. As a matter of fact, we checked with contractors. I mean, I had our engineers check with contractors as what the going price is today and what it might be 2 years from now.
No, I'd be very
Those are
curious on
realistic prices for asphalt.
that. They are.
I mean, I'm not prepared to answer that tonight.
Okay.
I don't know. I just don't know the answer.
Those are my 2 primary questions.
Well, very good. Thank you.
I'm not asking.
Bill, I think probably you should direct him to Sohio.
Well, I will.
For cost per square foot, he can give you how that, because he's the one that establishes these
Estimate
estimates.
about $10 a square foot, which is really expensive for resurfacing. I'm resurfacing
Well,
about
you
10,000
got to remember, you're milling off old.
Right, that's what we're doing.
You're milling off old.
I just
and
got
you're
done quoting
doing
it,
your
so I
base
know exactly
repairs,
where we're at.
and I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
They're supposed to be realistic costs.
Exaggerated.
Well, I really,
All right, I'm just curious as I look. You're asking me for money.
I think
and
as
want to
chairman
give you a
here,
response.
I have to say to you, I'm not sure you're correct, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dave Leslie on Chatham Street. So I did a little bit of research and looked into the accountability and who's responsible for repairing our roads. And what I saw was that construction of roads and maintenance is the county, but resurfacing falls to the state. And it says it plainly on their website. So I was curious about that. If that's really true, then it seems like the state would be responsible for repairing East River, West River. It seems like it's so plain in view that a lot of other people would have seen that. My second question, Has there ever been a precedent or any legal precedent for holding the county responsible for what maybe if they are in fact responsible for our roads? Has a township ever sued the county?
Latter question, not to my knowledge.
There has been some conversation. There's a number of issues that go with that because the accountability aspect of the county, they get a little more than a third of our tax revenue. And me personally expect more than I get. There's a lot of reasons why that doesn't happen because, and I can show you and sit down, I've got all the list of what county money funds go to. But yes, there has been some conversations whether it would, number one, is it possible? Is that precedence there? Or would it be throwing millions of dollars away in court attorney fees? But we are looking at the feasibility of doing that all the time. I mean, that's a question. I personally am not afraid of a lawsuit if it's going to benefit the residents. And one of the issues we deal with here, of course, is that anything that we commit to, be it a lawsuit, be it a road, be it anything, is shared by 4,700 addresses.
Right.
That's not very many people. It's not like if we had 10,000 houses. We don't have that. We've only got 4,000. So that cost. That's part of what we have to consider before we move forward on that. But that's not out of the question. There could be a time when we say, just wait a minute, what are we paying for? We've done that on other issues, not with the county. We've done it with the state. We've done it with the sewer. And in each time we've prevailed to the respect that we've gotten some relief. And it's benefited. And the relief that we received for those was greater than the cost. So far we're batting pretty good percentages, but we need to be really careful before we approach that because this could really very easily get into the $1 million bracket, and we just don't have enough people to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I'm just, from a citizen, I'm sitting back thinking,
absolutely,
how many more years are we going to give Wayne County a free pass if they are in fact responsible? If it's a state, that might be a different ballgame, but they've neglected the roads for a decade or more already, and as the lady said earlier, they're practically dirt roads on West River right now as it sits. So
but I think one thing we need to understand is it's not the Wayne County roads that we're complaining about are the Wayne County roads on Grosse Seal. We all use Wayne County roads off of Grosse Seal.
Sure.
And they're responsible for those too. So the picture's a lot broader than just the township. The impact on a township is huge. I mean, because we have to deal with it. And I personally feel it's affecting our taxable values on our houses, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Especially if there's a bridge issue.
If somebody doesn't step up. And I think that we're getting real close to having that discussion, where do we go from here? We're not there yet, because I'm not sure it's viable, but we are looking into it, I'll tell you that for a fact.
Okay.
On your first point, I just want to say, the information we've looked at for years now is that there's an act that was referred to by the supervisor. It's Act 51 of 1951. I think it will answer your questions. Easy to remember, 51 of 51. But the state of Michigan, they're not going to pave any local roads. They have jurisdiction over the state highways, state trunk lines, and for the federal government, levies an 18-cent tax on every gallon for the interstate system. So MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, they take care of their own system. County roads are designated county roads, and in townships, all the roads are county roads. But through several cities, like I'm familiar with, Ford Road is maintained by Wayne County, even though it may go through Wayne and Canton. Those are major connecting roads between municipalities. So that breakdown of who's responsible for what has been, I've never challenged it, but for my whole career, understand that that's the way it's always been. But I think Act 51 of 1951 will, I hope it will define that for you a little better.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Bob Walsh. I live over on Balmoral. In the 2015 millage that we requested, only lost by under 300 votes. When I talked to a few people, I work the elections and I work with the voters. After the election, why didn't you vote for it? Oh, yeah, too expensive. But if you do the road and do the sewer and the water at the same time, well, that makes a lot of sense. I think the problem, a big problem, was communication. Somehow, and I think we're right in that funny part of time without the papers and without, everybody with the internet or checking and watching these things. When a decision is made, part of this has to be how are we going to communicate this to the people? Like I say, missing it by 300 votes, and then when you talk to people afterwards and spend a little time one-on-one, that made more sense. I think it's a catch-22 of today, of communicating with people. Are they watching these things? Are they looking for papers or whatever? But that's an integral part of this, and especially looking at the results of the last one was.
Bob, I think that's a good point. And what we did, I think I'm correct in this, the election that we went forward with this it seemed like there was a wave of communities throughout Michigan going for road millage because the legislature had forestalled increasing the amount of money that people were going to get back, the communities were going to get back. We got on the bandwagon, and when we did this was mailed out to every household.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I personally spoke to a number of groups, church groups. We spoke to anybody that we would. Yeah. We had a program that the township manager and I put on the cable, but I don't know how many people
I know you
bored to death enough to watch cable.
At least to let people know there was this thing going on.
But we will do that. It's just tough. People, for whatever reason, people voted no.
Thank you.
But appreciate your comments. Who's next? Come on, there's a lot of people came out. There's a fellow. You can come out again if you want. Don't be timid here. The purpose of this is to at least throw ideas out and get your input.
We've got $17 million I saw at the end of the monthly budget. Is that correct? It's not? Okay. I thought I saw that on the website that's what we had right now.
We have very few dollars not spoken for.
Okay. So it's spoken for, and I saw an interest built on that. Where does that interest come from? And again, I don't know. I'm just kind of asking.
There's your hand.
Well, we have a lot of, for example, we have funds from open space. We have funds from existing bike path money. We have funds from general fund. We only get paid once a year. So we get a very large sum of money, and that money sits there, and that pays our police and our fire through the year. Well, that's obviously idle funds until we write a check for it. So that's where that interest comes from, those funds.
So is it just bank funds?
Huh?
Where's the money? I've always been under the impression cash is trash. We try and invest it, make more, and make it work for you. When I look at 0.58% as
unfortunately, we have a very little ability by state and federal law as to what we can invest in. We cannot put any of that money at risk. I mean, even a little bit at risk. So consequently, we have more trouble getting somebody to hold our money. I mean, it was one of my biggest shocks when I became treasurer, and John Riley was treasurer also. You're sitting here with $15 million. Nobody wants it. They can't have it long enough. And we can't commit it. So you take it to the bank, and it becomes a burden on the banks. And we've had, on a number of occasions, with some of the credit unions that come in here, they get audited. They call us, say, "You got to get your money out of here because it's short term. We can't have that money in here like that." So
okay, I was just curious if we could do better with our money to help in other areas.
There really is very little. We're very limited as to what we can invest.
Okay,
I could do a lot better, but we would be.
I'm not good with money, but
we'd be at some risk.
Well, that's a good question, and I wish we did have it. Believe me, that'd be great. Now, people, I want you to speak up. I mean, do you want to see us pave roads? Don't you want to see us fix roads? Do you have a special project in mind? Sir, come on up. Don't be timid. This is what this meeting's about.
Good evening, Bob Firmstone, Island Estates. First of all, I want to thank all of you for everything that you've done to this township to make it work. That millage that didn't pass, I was so pro for it, and it saddened me that it didn't work, and now we're paying for it. But I do like this new thing that you're coming along with, especially segment 4B, the widening of Church Road. That needs to be done so bad. And the reason I say that is I travel that road several times a day with 60-plus kids on a school bus. And when you're fighting a garbage truck, you really got to do maneuvering. And I got to commend the bus drivers on this island for being as successful as they've been on that crappy road. Excuse me. But I love the fact that you want to do a 2-foot widening. I'd like to see more. And I understand from Thoroughfare to East River the widening, but not west of Thoroughfare to Meridian because of the trees. That being said, all of you know we have the Anderson Cut. That could be utilized for pedestrians, kids walking and crossing Meridian there to get the other side of Meridian, instead of widening Church from Thoroughfare to Meridian. Last week we were traveling on that little section right there, and a lady, bless her heart, was jogging while school buses and cars, and you know, thank goodness, we are conscious enough on this island. We watch over people on our roads. We've been very fortunate. There has been no fatalities, and we all took our time to allow this lady to jog while school was being let out. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all you've done here, and I hope this works this time.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now, the Anderson Cut is a little bit, it's a possible pathway from Thoroughfare, which is a gravel road, to Meridian.
Correct.
And it's not improved. In fact, there's a hump in it. So what you're suggesting is that children on bikes or whatever might use that gravel section to avoid the intersection at Church and Meridian and cut across to the bike path on Meridian by using the Anderson Cut. Well,
that being said, I am a bike path commissioner, and I don't want to use my commission to stand here and talk. But you're absolutely right, because you have better visibility northbound and southbound when you cross at Anderson. You can see a mile each way, where if they go to Thoroughfare by Island, there's a curve. Visibility is limited. And thank you for listening to me.
That'd be a project we'd have to work jointly with you on then.
I'm willing to do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Over on this side. Come on up.
Island Estates. Getting back to West River, I'm one of those people that walks it constantly with my eyes on the road. You don't want to walk in a pothole. And you said the residents won't approve giving a little bit of their land to widen the road so we could walk safe. Today I walked, and half the time I'm walking on their grass because I don't want to get hit by the cars or the garbage truck. So why can't something be done so they can give us that much land so I don't have to walk on their grass because I'm walking on their property anyhow?
Well, I'm going on history, but when I first got on the commission 10 years ago or so, there was some talk. You know, the county resurfaced West River Road from the bridge south to Grow. Everybody's familiar to the airport, what we're talking about? And there was a gentleman that served on the commission back in those days who said the county has committed that they're going to do the other section of East River or West River. That there was no commitment. It never happened. There was no money. And the discussion I recall, and again, I guess you're the maybe Les would remember this, or John. But what I was told at that time is that several residents who were attorneys said, "Don't ask for any right of way because we're not going to give it." That's one thing. I feel I ride my bicycle on all these roads.
I do too.
And I agree with you. West River is dangerous. The West River has one of the, especially out by Island Estates, by the time traffic gets out, our traffic counts fell from like 700 cars a day out to that area. Church Road is like 4,000 vehicles a day. East River is 4,000 vehicles a day. Meridian is 8,000 vehicles a day or something of that sort. So it's a question of where we would put our money if we had it. But it costs a lot of money to put that extra 3 or 4 feet. I would just say this. I mean, if I lived on East River, I'd be, you can dodge in and out of the traffic walking. You can see it coming. But at any rate, it'd be nice if we had the money to do it. I agree with you.
And East River, I know somebody that grew up here and used to walk to school on sidewalks on East River, and the sidewalks just sort of disappeared too. So, there's a lot.
Never seen any out there, but maybe they are.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, that's a good comment. And so you're in favor of us paving West River?
Oh, absolutely.
There's
lots of room there to pave.
We have an expert sitting right here. Mr. Delphi spent, 7 years of your life trying to get a couple of feet of West River Road? Because as you notice, West River Road south of the bridge cut off there, that's much more serviceable and much wider. And I don't know, Jack, you had to spend 5 or 6 years trying to get, and these are big yards. I mean, we're not asking these people to put the road up next to the front of their house. And this man here spent years trying to negotiate with these people to get them to give us enough right-of-way that we could use that land. It's not easy, and it's going to be even worse on West River because the houses, some of those houses are really, really close to the road. So,
would you like to come up and speak, Jack, or not?
Yeah, Jack Delphi. My brother and I were on the road committee at that time, and we went and on West River from Grow Road to Parkway, we knocked on every door, and we wanted to just store equipment on their lawn temporarily. We didn't want the property, but we had various people that held out, and they would not let us do that. So it's not that people will let you, it's only a few feet and we can do that. It's difficult to do. I don't know how you would ever get the property from people to do it.
There's 70 properties on West River Road from the sewer plant or from where the bridge is north that we do not have right-of-ways on. And on a couple of those properties, the road is on their property.
You would end up in litigation to try and get that property somehow. And we were very close to doing that with people to just let us store equipment on their lawn temporarily while we did it. It's not an easy thing. It's very, very difficult.
Thanks, Jack.
I would say this, that the tradition of this commission has been, since we're all citizens like you, when we do a big project, when we have done them in the past, we've had a meeting on them and invited people to come in and talk about them so that people could get their questions answered. And one thing we've learned after East River is, where do we put a fire hydrant on somebody's property? Decided from now on, if we're going to rebuild a water main, we're going to send a letter to everybody that's proposed to have a water main, because the engineers say every 500, 600 feet you're going to have a water main or a fire hydrant. And we never seem to put it in the right spot. So we decided the next project, like West River, once the plan's done, we're going to invite everybody by letter that has a hydrant in their front yard, because it has to be in so many 50 or 100 feet of the right parameters, and ask them to come in and say, where would you like it? Next to your drive, next to a tree? But we're going to have it. So anyway, let's have more people come up and speak. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. Steve Lemoyne, 8410 Hampton. Just real quick, and I have not looked at the budget, so I apologize. If a project of $6 million doesn't go forward for that first segment, those projects there, is there opportunities for funding to start looking at one project a year type situation? So for me, the focus definitely is church Thank you to the gentleman who's a bus driver. I got a few kids out here, 5 to be exact, so we use the school systems a lot. So for example, church, I don't know if the budget would allow for $850,000, if that's a worst case scenario, to start to look at some individual projects, or if the group here has looked at those things just to start putting it in the budget and not going for a millage.
Well, we have no money. Let's start there. We have no money for road construction at this point. We levy 0.4 of a mil, and actually with the Headley rollback, it's 3.9 mils. It raises about $220,000 a year. Of that, 100,000 is committed to the extra ice control and snow removal we do. Roadside mowing, the county will do a roadside mowing once a year, whether we need it or not, and we supplement that. And then we have dust control, which costs us about $30,000 a year for the 5 or 6 miles of gravel roads we have. So that leaves us about $120,000 a year, and we have purposely put that money into our neighborhood streets. Because they're the ones, we have a lot of concrete streets where Grays Drive is a good example. If you have anybody in high school, we've spent a lot of money the last couple of years on Grays Drive by the high school. So that's where that money goes. But other than that, we don't have any money. So one of the challenges we're going to have to look at what we're going to ask the voters for. And to your question, when we do that, let's say we got a mill approved, and it would raise $600,000 a year. Then the question is, do we do one project a year for $600,000, which is about, let's say, a mile of road? And that would mean if we got it approved for 10 years, by the year 2028, we complete the $6 million worth of road projects. So the other option would, I'll just finish and then I'll let you address it. Sure. The other option would be to bond against that. In the first couple of years, do all the roads, issue some bonds, and get the roads, get as many done as we can quickly. That's a good question you asked, though.
Well, and you raised some good points. All different things that are nice to have things. I'm not asking you to do dust control. That's a nice to do thing. I'm not asking you to cut the grass as often as it's done. That's a nice to do thing. So I think we really have to challenge ourselves and people who show up and want to be involved to where are we putting those dollars? That's a question I think we really have to ask. Yes, maybe people want to keep spending the extra 30, 40 grand, whatever it is, to be a priority for the plowing service. These all add up, and before you know it, you have $500,000 for a road. And I think we really have to challenge ourselves, where are all these little itemized expenses going? Because unfortunately, the township doesn't show up to give you good feedback. They just don't. And I've come to many meetings over the 10 plus years I've lived here, and this is excellent to see this group out here right now. I think it's the best I've seen in a long time. So clearly this is a topic people want to hear more about. But if it was, let's talk about dust control, I don't know if you'd have a soul in here. So I think we really have to go back and look at every single line item and challenge, where do we find $500,000? Where do we find $700,000 or half of this, and start to see where the funds can come from.
Appreciate your comments, sir. Who's next? Way in the back corner, and then this gentleman. We got somebody coming from the back, and then you can speak, sir.
Ed Kostroff. I live on West River. Boy, do I want to see you do West River Road. I've lived here 42 years, and I live between the sewer treatment plant and Ferry Road, on the corner of Ferry Road. And you haven't touched that road, other than cold patch it. It is full of potholes, and it's very hard to run on, bike on, or do whatever. It's hard to drive on. Chief Porcerelli isn't here, so I can admit that I drive in the center of that road. So do the police, but that's okay.
So do I.
Yeah, everybody does. Who wants to get your car all bumped up? But I have a concern. About 25 years ago, you repaved Ferry Road from West River to Meridian. It was a horrendous road. It was easily a better dirt road than it was a paved road. And you did a great job redoing it. But nobody's put a dime into that road. And the cracks in that road are 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide now in certain areas. So if we redo the roads, how do we maintain them if there's no budget to do anything? And that's where my concern is. Are we budgeting money to maintain these nice roads that we will redo for close to $8 million?
Well, the money that we talked about just a moment ago, the 0.4 mil, that we call our maintenance money. And we have done a considerable number of miles of crack and joint sealing with that money. And that's been a priority, and that helps. Manchester's one, but several of their asphalt roads too, Ferry Road. But you can't crack seal on West River Road.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Ferry.
I know.
Yeah. That's going to really deteriorate if we don't get it crack sealed pretty soon.
Yeah, this commission, we do an annual tour of the roads. We drive them together in a van, and we spend a Saturday morning looking at the roads and try to come up with a priority. What are we going to try to fix this year?
But
that's
by
a
all
good
means,
point. I appreciate that.
Put the new water line in and get the county to do Ferry Road from the sewer treatment plant.
It would go past your house, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all your work.
You, sir, you had your hand up.
Todd Selby, West River Road. I will reiterate the thank you for all your efforts. I appreciate both the efforts and the conversation. I've got some comments here and one potential concern. He just mentioned the Ferry Road section. When I was learning to drive here, that was a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, along with West River, East River, and most of the island. And I think most people traveled about 45 on that section. I rarely use that to get from West River to Meridian because I can't stand driving 25 miles an hour on an empty road that wide. I don't understand it. I know that there's more building on there now, but most of that is housing that has no traffic during the day. Mentioned the traffic counts on West River. I'm near Lakewood, and I typically take Lakewood across to Meridian, particularly if I'm northbound, because the northbound lanes on West River are bad. I drive a full-size truck, and I have had to actually stop when there's traffic coming toward me because there was a pothole I didn't want to go through. You're working on it. Thank you. The issue of city and township, way back when, my father was involved in a lot of those discussions, and along with the things Mr. Loftus brought up, there are a lot of other advantages to staying a township, so no, that isn't an easy issue. The one little concern I have, which, excuse me, I think the engineers will hopefully address, there are a lot of sections on West River where the shoulder is almost non-existent to the river. And when we shift the drainage to that side, which seems like the obvious thing to do, I'm just concerned that we may create some erosion problems there because of that very narrow distance between the edge of the road and the bank.
You're saying from the east side to the west?
Well, when we shift the drainage from the east side to the west side and let it go straight into the river, then it's going to be going down that bank. And in the areas where the distance from the edge of the road to the bank is that far, just a little concerned something will need to be done to prevent eroding away the bank and undercutting the road.
Good point, and I think that we've talked plenty about the drainage on West River. And I'm sure that we can engineer a solution so that we don't erode the bank.
Well, I just brought it up just to make sure somebody's thinking about that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Cliff Danville from Larkspur. I'm in favor of any improvement that you're making, but I want to. It sounds like sometimes that safety is being put aside to the cost. When you're talking about widening West Road or putting in I'm not sure that's really going to help the safety issue with pedestrians. I think, the separate bicycle path is what would really be needed. But I think we need to push safety up on the list of these improvements, regardless, or build it into the cost. I don't know. I don't want improvements made without safety being put in there.
Yes, sir.
John Ryan Jr., East River. For the amount of roadway that you're preparing to resurface, were your engineers or the township engineers ever thought of doing full depth reclamation?
Full depth would mean we'd take all the pavement out?
Full depth as of what FDR is it you would be milling, let's say, and undercutting about a foot down, and then it grinds everything up, and then they put in a cement, let's say a cement slurry into it, and so then that foot becomes a solid base for your pavement. So did your engineers ever come across that or think of doing that?
I don't know if they have, but we haven't talked about that.
And then was directional boring ever thought for putting in water mains or any type of service line?
Yes. The East River water main was directional boring.
Okay, so what was the
West River will not be because we're going to put it under the road. We want to dig that out.
Okay, but if there's any issue with the water main itself, you're going to have to just take it up, tear up the roadway again. I understand it, putting in the new main, it's not going to be for quite some time until something happens to it because it is a plastic line. But any type of issues with any service lines coming across that, coming off the main, or any type of problems with that, you're going to have to tear the road up again. So why couldn't you directional bore the main on the shoulder or more towards in the approach to the properties? If you understood my question.
I understand your question. We made the decision that we wanted to redo West River Road. If we directionally bored the front yards, even inside the tree, there's no advantage to getting the road fixed. We wouldn't fix the road.
I don't think we have easements to do that. I don't think we could. It's not an easement issue.
We don't have an easement for it anyway. But
we don't have easements. We can't get on other people's property. Oh, we could. I suppose we could take them to court, but we'd be there a long time.
I understand.
I think the full depth approach you're talking about, I mean, I'm familiar with full depth, taking full depth out and putting, let's say, a residential road 8 to 10 inches, whatever material back. That's very costly.
Okay. I understand that you're putting in the main to underneath the road so we can also resurface it. I understand that. It was just thought directional boring would be easier to do. That's all.
Not sure with all the trees there that it would be.
Okay.
We don't have any easements for it anyways.
Okay. All right.
That answers your question.
Yep. Thank you.
For this side, there have been very few people that have come up, got here. All right.
All right. Hello again, Steve Lemoyne, 8410 Hampton. So again, my plea is for the folks out there on TV. So again, you are all engaged, folks. You're here. The folks out here, they're all engaged. They're here. Supervisor, he's here. Township manager, he's here. Everybody's engaged. It's the folks on the TV, the folks out there. If they're not giving their opinion, then things aren't going to change. So, for example, if I'm reading this correctly, your agenda for today, there's an action item, what we just talked about. Wayne County Agreement for Supplemental Priority Winter Road Maintenance. Why would we even recommend it? You know, these are the hard discussions. I'm telling you, my kids ask for stuff all the time. We all had those situations. The wife wants things, I want things, the kids want things. We're not going out to eat every single night. We're not going out to do this. We can't do Disney 4 times a year. These are the types of tough discussions that I think we really have to challenge ourselves on. If the roads are priorities, what are we willing to give up and change? Because at the end of the day, everybody has a budget. I get it. I deal with numbers for what I do for my living. I get it. But I have to adjust where those numbers go every single year, just as I do at the house. So, sure, this township has become accustomed. We pay the thousands of dollars. We get some type of priority for plowing. Great. Long cut service. Great. But something has to change. We have money. We're choosing to spend it elsewhere. And these folks in this room and me are saying spend it on these priorities. And I think we really have to look at what are we sending forward, what are we not, and action items like this for tonight, maybe it doesn't go forward until more people come in here and say it's a priority. Because I don't think it's a priority. Fixing a road is a priority.
Okay, well, your point is valid about government. Well, don't leave. About government having to continually re-examine what we're doing, and I think that's a very valid point. The issue with that is, and we've looked into it, but what it turns out, because cities all have their own public works department, so when we get ice in the morning, they ice the school bus routes. Hear me out.
The whole domino effect.
Hear me out. We don't have that capability as a township. We don't have the equipment to do that. Wayne County, they go out and ice as soon as the storms occur, with the ice storms. We pay that amount of money, and so do the other townships, so that they will come in before going on the freeway. I mean, they send so many trucks on the freeway, they come out and ice our school bus routes on a priority basis. That's what that's for. And each year it varies a little bit. And we inherited it. I mean, it's always been going on, so there's a valid reason to look at it.
And I'll tell you, when I leave in the morning,
that's what it's for.
No plowing's occurred.
Not talking about plowing.
I leave.
Not talking about plowing. This is for icing our school bus routes. I mean, de-icing, not icing. But I understand your question.
But this, again, the folks on the TV out there, in TV land, they have to speak up, because what people have become accustomed to, something has to change if these roads are going to get done. Something has to change.
I agree with you 100%. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to add a word of support to those remarks that were just made. Can I be heard? Is this okay?
Talk a little louder. I think
okay,
you can be heard.
A little bit softer.
Go closer to the mic.
Thank you.
No, I mean, because it doesn't pick it up. Just get your...
We have a need to review our budget and look at things. I've had a conversation recently, for example, where... Oh, thank you.
Magic.
Is that better? Is that good? Gooder. Thank you. The airport Commerce Park has lost substantial sums this year, something in the range of $300,000 plus. If we look at the township monies that come in, we run on roughly $300,000. So there's a 10% drain right there. We took over a 10 or 12 year period, $300,000. Maybe that list of roads we're talking about would have one more road on the list this year. You see?
Where's that 300,000?
As I understand it, Brian, it's coming off the township industrial park.
No, absolutely not.
That's a separate.
Absolutely not.
Okay, let me explain how the dominoes are lined up on my line of reasoning, and if I'm in error, you correct me. But if the airport is in trouble for money, Grow Seal gives it to them. If they make money, they keep it.
That's incorrect. The Grow Seal gives the airport nothing.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Thank you.
I was making that assumption in there, Ted.
It isn't the airport and a Commerce Park facility is totally autonomous. There is no tax money. We raise all of our funds is from our rentals. The township has no input financially to the airport or the airport Commerce Park.
Somewhere along the line years ago, Ted, I had a conversation, as I recall, that said that in a way the airport was a one-way street. If it made money, it was fine. If it was in trouble, taxpayers from Grow Seal put into their pockets the sum necessary.
You're talking to the wrong people.
Thank you. I honestly don't remember who I was talking to, but that's the truth. That's what I stand corrected on that. Excuse me. But it is true. We can learn to do new things in better ways. And on the basis of the experiences that I have had, I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you. Okay. I want to give everybody a chance to speak that's here. I don't want anybody to say they left and they didn't get a chance to speak. So anybody else want to make a comment? Mr. Rayom, Township Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale Rayom, Township Manager. Just want to make a few comments. It's great to see 30-plus people in here. How many of you got your notifications on Girls Hill Connect? Good? Bad? That's a way we're trying to communicate to everyone. So we appreciate your feedback, and that's another way we can reach out to the residents about upcoming meetings, upcoming votes. But obviously, we don't take the position, vote for, vote against. We just try to get the word and the facts out. Earlier, there were questions about the money in the bank, if you will. Well, I believe as township manager, one of the successes for the township of Grow Seal is that general law township, from the financial side of things, it's voter approved earmarked millages. When a voter says, I want to give you money for police, it goes to police, it goes to fire, it goes to open space, it goes to roads, just as the treasurer explained earlier. So we want to borrow from one fund for another. We do very little bit of that, and it's not a big pot of money that we like to say is available for everyone, because it's not. We keep that money in those special pots, if you will. And the other thing I wanted to comment on, there were questions about all the different fees and the costs and the engineer estimates. The difference between a public project like this and perhaps just a residential rebuild. I guess this is the bureaucracy in me. I sat and wrote some notes. Their construction, labor, materials, drainage, soil erosion, permits, Wayne County's fees, inspection, contract administration, field engineering, surveying, and of course a contingency. So all that's thrown on top of just a regular and molded into a construction project. So I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, with the scope of projects and different projects that you've worked with in the past as well as I. I think these numbers are pretty good, and that contingency, I think, is 10%, correct? So I just wanted to share some of those ideas and thoughts on how things work. So, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Okay, final call. All right, so before we adjourn, I want to explain one thing. We're going to have our regular meeting following this meeting. We're going to talk about sewers and stuff, but you're all welcome to stay if you wish. We're not ready to adjourn this meeting yet. I'd like to now turn to see if any of the commissioners have any comments they'd like to say. We'll just go around the table. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. So start with
my only comment. Anytime that it goes onto a millage versus being placed on service charges, it gives the homeowner the opportunity or the ability to deduct that from his taxes. They did that through a vote when we did the sewer project, and that was mandated, federally mandated, so we had to do it anyway. But we did ask the public, do you want that on your taxes, on millages, or do you want it on service charges? Residents were smart enough to pick up the fact that it's probably much better going on millages, and the same thing with everything that we're doing here. If we had a catastrophe or a bad issue where we had to step up and bond to do a project through the DPS department, that money in that bond would go on your rates. I mean, not for profit, but it's got to have an operating cost. And that, then your rates go up. So you're going to pay one way or the other. As a resident, we're all going to pay one way or the other. So the best scenario when this board or commission or the township board offers the ability to, if you want to move forward with these projects, of course it's your choice. It's the taxpayer and the voter's choice. We can't mandate this. So we have to ask because of the type of government that we are. And I think it's the greatest in the world. Because we can't just levy it. It'd be really easy if we could, but I don't know if anybody could live here because it'd be too expensive. So I just want you to know that when you get that opportunity, if you choose, myself, I think it's a huge responsibility to take on. I am not at all happy with the fact that it's a Wayne County issue that we're dealing with, but most communities throughout Michigan, have taken it upon themselves to take on the road funding, or at least a majority of it. And our responsibility would be to go to Wayne County and see if we can get them to give us something. They gave us $500,000 3 years ago, $500,000 last year for a county that had no money. That's America, and they paid us. And all we had to do was put in $100,000. So we got $1.2 million worth of work done with Wayne County money. Well, like I said, with our money, we got some of our money back. But we will, as a board, as a township board, and as a commission, I promise you that we will get every dollar from Wayne County where we can get. But I can also promise you that if your expectations are really high, they're not going to be met. And that's unfortunate, but it's a fact. And I don't want my taxes any higher, but I also don't want the front end of my car falling off. So there's a compromise we have to make here. And if we just ignore it, and it's our job, it's this commission job. And I want to tell you, this is probably one of the hardest working commissions on the island. It's their job to make these choices available to the taxpayer. We'll preach, we'll call you down here, we'll give you all the information we can possibly give you, but ultimately it's your decision. And you saw that in the last couple of millage votes. It was voted down by a small percentage. And I'll tell you right now, I've been on Grosse Ile for 38 years, been in politics for 30 of those years as commissioner. There's 1,000 no votes on this island. I don't care what you put. If you wanted to give away free steaks, there'd be 1,000 people that wouldn't take it. So that means that when we go out to vote, we got to get at least that 1,000 overcome because some people just don't want to vote yes. That's okay. It's human nature, and I understand that. So that's all I have said.
Well, thank you for that philosophical lesson. We needed that.
I told you if I came here tonight, you were going to listen to me, right?
You don't have to speak, commissioners, if you don't want to. But Les, you have anything you want to add?
Yes, back in the early 70s, people all got together and they voted millage to get the roads repaired on Grosse Ile. And that's when we had a contract with Ajax Paving through the county. And they paved all the roads on Grosse Ile, East River, West River, Bellevue, Ferry Road, Church Road, and some of that stuff is still the original pavement. But we kept collecting that millage until they didn't collect it anymore, and that's what got the other roads done. Like we did Horse Mill from Park Lane to Meridian. We did Ferry Road from Meridian to West River Road, and we did other stuff with that money, and now they don't collect it anymore. So I'd like to see us go back and collect the millage that we collected when we first started to do all these roads. back in the 70s.
Bill.
My only comment would be, first off, I was here when we had all the meetings for the previous millage in 2015 that failed, and I don't think we had this many people in the audience at any given time for that. So I'm very pleased with the turnout we see for this meeting. Of course, what it tells me is these roads are really getting bad, and now people are really starting to pay attention, and that's the obvious case. And the other thing is I do need to somewhat agree with the gentleman that was talking about how we allocate our money. I think that we all need to realize that every time we spend a dollar, we're making a value judgment as to what that dollar should be spent for. But it goes across the whole island budget, not just the road committee budget. Concerning the snow removal, the priority, I firmly believe that's a necessity. The grass cutting, I don't know if anybody has spent much time driving along West River Road near the golf course, and that the grass out there grows actually out over and into the road, and it just makes it not only dangerous just for cars to go past, but no pedestrians could get through there at all. So some of this grass mowing is of a necessity, but I do agree we do need to look at how we spend each and every dollar we spend, and call us to task when you see us not doing it correctly. I appreciate everybody being here.
Brenda.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out and for your input.
Jim.
I also want to thank everybody, and Phil is absolutely right. We had 3 town hall open house meetings on top of all the places we went and all the groups that we talked to, and we did not have this many people in all 3 for that when we were trying to push that millage. So thank you very much. This is the first of hopefully many that we will do. I'd encourage you certainly to come back. Encourage your friends to come, your neighbors, because we want to hear from you, because it is the residents' tax dollars that are going to be spent if we pass a millage. So we want to know what you want to do. Thanks.
I'll just make one final comment, again, part to address a couple of the sentiments expressed by the gentleman with the University of Michigan jacket. I'm a Spartan, but I love you guys. But and you gentlemen there. One thing this commission did, we about 3 years, well, now it's 5 years ago, we came up with the idea of studying chip seal. Chip seal is when the road's not as bad as East River or West River, but when it's like Grow Road out in front here, or South Point. We studied what the chip seal is. When you contractor lays a fine layer of shaved flat stone down in a hot slurry mix, and they put 2 applications of it down, and it's a maintenance item. There's no structural value, but if you do it at the proper time, you can preserve a road. Now, I will tell you this. We went to Monroe County. I went to Lenawee County and Midland County, and we looked at their procedures. Doing base repairs, if a road costs $600,000 to resurface, we were looking at less than $60,000 a mile to do chip seal. And we studied this. Monroe County said they would come out and do ferry for us. Well, every time they had and they do 70 miles a year, Monroe County. We went and saw their equipment. We saw the main roads that they do, and I'm not familiar that much with Monroe County, but in Midland County, I saw a 4-lane major road that they chip seal. Now, you have to chip seal about every 3 to 4 years. It keeps the pavement in good shape. It fills all the cracks and the voids, and it gives you a good riding surface. We had hearings here with that. We put on a demonstration. We did from East River Road, from Grow to Manchester 3 years ago now. We did Grow Road out here, and the results were very good. We wanted to do ferry, And the weather was so bad that every time Monroe County was going to come out and do it for us, as an example, we were going to pay them $25,000 to do ferry, that mile of ferry. We never connected, and they couldn't come out when it wasn't raining. I mean, you don't want to do it when it's raining. My story is just this. A year later, we were going to ask them to come back. They came back out and looked at it and said, "Oh, ferry's too far gone now." I mean, the cracks from that real cold winter we had a couple winters ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, the separation in the asphalt that was breaking up was too severe. They said it's not a candidate for chip seal any longer. Now, we did Horse Mill. We chip sealed Horse Mill a week after we did these other roads. These other roads turned out good. I don't know what happened to Horse Mill. It doesn't drive very smoothly. People complain about it, so you never know. Last brought to us this summer, if you're familiar with Grayling to Kalkaska, that long stretch of highway from Grayling, if you're going to Traverse City, that's M72. They did 19 miles, MDOT did, 19 miles of chip seal, a double chip seal they called it. You got heavy trucks driving 60 miles an hour on that road, and they did chip seal. Now, we've looked at chip seal, and we thought we were successful. The only feedback we've ever had is from people that didn't like it. I mean, I'm talking about 4 or 5 people that have criticized it. But we looked at that as a viable alternative. If you're familiar with, I mean, South Point would be a good candidate for continuing chip seal. So some of these roads, East River, West River, are too far gone. Sections of Meridian are too far gone. But this section of Meridian from the airport to Parkway is not too far gone that we couldn't chip seal it. So we have looked at alternatives to try to be as cost effective as we can. The one section of road that I want to point out to you, if you ever drive along the airport from Grow out towards Hickory Island on East River, a couple years ago you could have chip sealed that. It's really starting to break up. Anybody live out that way? Nobody. You know that's a bad section of road. Getting worse year by year. So anyway, I just wanted to say that we haven't locked out the opportunity to look at chip seal again. But we got to, we want to maintain the road network we have so it doesn't keep deteriorating. But these roads that we picked out here are our worst roads. That's what we attempted to do, and to say what would it cost and how far would money go. That's what we tried to do. We're months away from making a recommendation to the township board. Everything's open. One thing I would say to you and to the audience out there, this commission talked about every month now on our monthly meeting, which is the second Tuesday of every month, we're going to have roads on our agenda. Whether we have any input from the public or not, we're going to try to keep the dialogue going and keep talking about it. So everybody's welcome to view us. And I get stopped in Kroger all the time about plug sewers and things. But at any rate, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. You're welcome to stay for our continuation of our meeting. So thank you. We'll close this part of the meeting and we'll move on.
Make a motion, we close this part of the public hearing.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I don't know that we need a motion, but we'll take a small break.
We don't need it.
We'll take a couple-minute break so everybody can leave if you want to. And thank you all for being here.
I got it.
The next item on the agenda will be approval of the minutes of our September 12th meeting. Well, had a chance to look at them. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I will second it.
Moved and supported that the minutes of September 12th be approved as distributed. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, you have on pages 8 through 12 the vouchers listed. Can I have a motion to approve the vouchers?
Motion to approve the bills and vouchers 13646 to 13656.
Is there support? Is there support?
Support.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Next, you have a statement of revenues and expenditures for the first 6 months of the year. Unless there are any questions, we'll receive and file that information. Hearing none, we'll move on. Next, you have approval of the treasurer's report for September of 2017. For September of 2017.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for September of 2017.
There's support.
I will second that.
Moved and supported that the treasurer's report be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes. The treasurer's report's approved. Is there any additional public comment on something other than what we just talked about, roads? We have a few people left in the audience, and okay, so we're going to move on, but Mr. Bob, is it? Yeah. You're here about Ember Court, and Lorinda, either you or I can give the update on that.
Why don't you go ahead?
All right. Bob, would you come up to the podium so I can see you? So Ember Court is an area of the township. I'm just going to describe it. People are watching on TV. Mm-hmm. That is east of East River Road.
Yes.
It's a neighborhood. And west of Stout. It's between Stout and Church Road, let's say. And you're up against a wetland as part of your development. And the flooding in the wetland has been severe over the past few years. So we were asked some months ago to look at how we might be able to assist with the overflooding, the excess amount of water that remains for a long period of time in a couple acre stand of woods. It breeds mosquitoes and so forth. The engineers have looked at the alternatives. We've taken survey grades and so forth. And the best solution to drain Ember Court is to go to Stout, towards Stout, where we can connect in a ditch along Stout and into eventually a storm sewer that drains to canal that runs through the island. The update on that is we looked at several scenarios. We met with the Department of Environmental Quality representative on the floodplain issue, and we came up with a solution that would really reduce our involvement with the floodplain issue. We could just top off the, not drain completely the wetland, but top off the excess flooding of the wetland.
Yes.
We had a route selected on one property that would allow us to extend a pipe, bury a shallow pipe and extend it to Stout, pick up the ditch and run to the storm sewer. We were unable to secure an easement from that party. So the answer was to move it one lot west. We hope to have a report available tonight, but the surveyors went out, the engineers went out, shot new grades for the other parcel, and now we've come up with a third alternative. That this pricing went pretty expensive. The second route we had chosen. Just to give you an idea, these costs are rough, but the one cost for the drain was about $16,000 to $18,000. The next cost was between $45,000 and $50,000. Now we've come up with a third. In fact, we had a meeting on it today that might be much cheaper than that $40,000, $50,000. Not involve the county. Second alternative we came up with would have involved reditching along Stout. It's a county ditch. We'd had to get a county permit. We'd have been delayed. So at any rate, as of this afternoon, we had a meeting on it. I was hoping to bring it back tonight. And I guess here's where I think we're at. Looks to me like doing this properly and not interfering with the wetland, that we could take the project on and bid it so that the work could be done in March. And then the property we would have to traverse across if we can get it worked out with the property owner. The property owner in question on Stout seems very cooperative.
Oh, that's great.
Wants their property drained.
Great.
It would look like we could get it built in March so that it could be replanted and so forth, restored, the property could be restored.
That would be an excellent time.
Well, that's about where we're at.
Yeah, April's the worst usually.
Well, that's about where we're at.
Well,
Bob, I think does Benito have your phone number, name and phone number? Do you have it?
I believe so.
I still have it, yes.
Yes.
I do.
Because we can keep you, you're the president, right? Of
Yes, I am.
So we'll keep you posted.
Okay.
And make sure you have his phone number.
Yeah.
I do. I have it back in the office.
In case any commissioners have an update, that's we hurriedly got this second alternative information together. We actually took bids on the first route. We rushed it. There was one bid submitted that was never opened. There was another bid that, the contractor submitted by email, and he was told not to do that. But we didn't have the easement. Then we learned we couldn't get it under any circumstances. Canceled that bid opening, never opened the one bid we got. And, one contractor that wanted to bid, a local person we were aware of, didn't bid because of that. And so at any rate, let's just do this properly. We're going to look at this third alternative now, and hopefully it'll be at a reasonable cost. And property owner wants to drain their property or prevent it from flooding as well. And hopefully it'll work out.
That's great. And I really appreciate all the help we've been getting from you.
You're welcome to stay for our meeting. I didn't want you to sit through this other stuff.
That's all right. I'm getting old and it's getting late.
I'm getting old as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Page 11, John? No,
Back to page 21.
I've got my papers all mixed up.
Public comment?
All right. I'm doing a lot of talking here. You want me to continue with this one?
Well, either you or I, but let me just chime in. Last month, the commission wanted us to table this action item pending receiving some leasing information. Also, the fact that we had one member that wasn't here who wanted to hear that information. Unfortunately, the vendor could not provide us with that leasing information, and we are bringing it back to you now to make a formal decision whether we're moving this forward or not.
Okay. So the issue before us is whether we purchase this truck, allow us to clean the sewers with a high-jet cleaner, and also have a camera capability that we could put a camera down in all our sewer pipes and TV inspect the sewer pipes for failures and other problems. Truck cost, I'm a little confused on this point because $258 is one cost, but this is for $271. So that's one issue that we need to make sure we address. You'll recall the minutes reflect this. Mr. Van Oz brought up a question at the last meeting about if we buy the truck, the cost of staffing it. We'd have to have one full-time certified operator, and the proposal, I think you thought, Ted, that it might take two people. You had concern about it.
I think logically that's probably where, in my opinion, that's where it would go.
I had thought all along we were talking about one full-time person and then part-time people to staff the truck. So, and there's been talk over the last several meetings about, well, do we buy the truck outright? Do we purchase it over a number of years, do a lease purchase, or do we just lease a truck? So we always, and we talked also about just leasing the chassis and purchasing the rest of the truck. So we've had a lot of discussion with a lot of variables in it. Where I think we're at right now is our finance director said we could go to the wastewater treatment plant fund if we wanted to buy the truck, and we could spread the cost to purchase it budget by budget. We would borrow from the sewer fund to the wastewater fund, two different funds, and we could spread the cost of the purchase over 5 years or even 6 years. That's one option. As far as the leasing, I don't know if anybody here, and I know Lenny's not here, but I don't know if anybody's in favor of the leasing. To me, you're always having that cost then, and I'm not sure that for that kind of a truck, it's...
Just for understanding, in the red paragraph information, they use the word walk away. Is that the same thing? Well, I just want to get that clarified, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's Lenny's expertise. I can't really speak.
I think that means closed end.
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention, and then we can open this for discussion. You'll recall that last winter, to clean the sewers and TV inspect them, we're required by the state to do that every 5 years in our asset management plan. We had a 5-year program laid out. We took bids on it, and the cost came in at a price that was over $150,000 a year. We said we were going to spend we budgeted for years that $150,000 a year. And that's what we have in this year's budget. So the price came in more costly than that. And one thing we learned recently, when we bid that, there was a lot of work being done throughout Southeast Michigan, that kind of work. There were a number of communities that took advantage of something called a SAW grant. I don't know what SAW stands for, but it was a state of Michigan sponsored program where you could do a sewer study, do your cleaning, and get a grant for it, up to 90%, to do the planning and do the sewer inspections. But the catch on that program is, let's say it was determined that you have to spend $2 or $3 million upgrading your sewer system. You were committed to that. If you didn't do that, you got to pay back all this SAW grant money. Anyway, the point is, there was a lot of SAW grants being done. The contractors were busy. What we learned in the last month, I got this from our engineers, that one of the contractors said that his prices would be much better, more efficient, did it now, because he's running out of that SAW grant stuff. Plus, I think we may have identified another contractor who might want to try to do some of this. At any rate, so we have the two options we're looking at. Do we buy a truck and staff it, or do we bid it out and have a contractor do the work over a 5-year period? Now, I know that the township board, and we have 2 members here between you, Jim, you're not really interested in hiring more staff because of associated costs, legacy costs and so forth.
At one point,
I think that the issue there is, as I'm listening to people talk about it, is some of these things seem to grow on their own. Hire 1.5 staff people, next thing you know, it's 2. Or we always thought that the advantage of doing it ourselves was that when they weren't doing the sewer inspection work, which can only be done during certain dry periods, that we'd have the advantage of people that were being paid for by the sewer fund for that work, but could do other things in the township. So that's where we're at. I think I'm beyond all this leasing and chassis stuff. I mean, personally I am. Either we buy the truck and spread the cost with our own resources, stay within the 150, hire a couple, 1.5 people or whatever, or we contract it out. And I think that's where we're at. So
I just want to make one comment, and then I'll get out of this discussion. I don't have a vote, but it's my opinion that we've already established that our current rate structure can handle $150,000 annually. Already established that. And I believe that we should go out for bids, within that ramification. Now, if it doesn't meet the DEQ's standard, as long as we're moving forward at whatever pace we're moving forward at, for $150,000 a year, which is already factored in, it's not. My concern is that if we get into additional personnel, get into buying this vehicle, we're going to have an impact on rates. And I would not vote for that at the board level. And I think that we should probably seriously think about at least rebidding it again to see if maybe we can do this project within the $150,000 range.
I like what Ted says, but for other reasons. And the reason why were several that I like that aspect. Mr. Kennedy had mentioned a couple of times we need to know how many sewer miles or pipe miles we're going to have to generate with this equipment on an annual basis, and some essential, that's really some cost accounting is what it is. And it's in place as opposed to on a chalkboard in some accountant or engineering office someplace. It's actual. It's real time. So when you look at the tires in the tire store and they say, oh, these tires are good for 50,000 miles, sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. Sometimes it's a result of the tire compound and sometimes it's other reasons. So I think if we could do that at least for a year and get some stats on it. Now, the problem with the stats is they have to be collected. The problem with the statistics, I'm especially interested in the people here at the table. Statistics have to be collected accurately. So it would just be a dream with no fulfillment if all we did was outsource this and never keep track of what they did and at the end of the year rely on whatever their numbers were. We need to continually follow up and collect good data that's good, reliable information, and you can make much better decisions once you see that type of thing in your platform. So I'm in favor of some type of outsourcing for a year, and I don't know that we have to sign a 5-year contract. I think you could do it for a year if there is no follow-up, and that's not for us to do. That's somebody else's job. But if there's no follow-up, then that cost accounting data is out the window, and we just missed another opportunity. So that's.
John, I want to answer your question before others speak. The two issues you raised. One is the way the original bid was set up, John. We bid it for 5 years, and it was a 5-year contract, but we could terminate each year. In other words, we weren't locked in. We could go 1 year at a time, but the price was for 5 years that we got, and it was bid by so many feet of this size pipe, and so forth. So I think
that's all right because you can still stay with the 1-year plan,
right,
as long as the notice and cancellation is in reasonable time frames. If it's not, then you lose that benefit of cancellation. That's all. It's just good contract work, but it will assimilate good statistical information if we pay attention to it. If we don't, then the analysis is impossible. You can't do it.
Okay, Les, go down the end of the table. You want to comment on this?
Well, the only thing is I'm in favor of getting a truck because the truck that we do have is getting much older. And this truck here has the capabilities of TV in the sewers. And even when I was working, I wanted to get a different sewer truck than what we had. And this is modern technology that we have. So I'm in favor of purchasing the truck and trying to wait for Lenny to give us any information on this lease stuff. It'd be crazy because we don't put that kind of miles on a truck in 1 year to be leasing a chassis.
Les, how old is the current sewer truck?
I think it's tickling about 25, isn't it, John?
Correct.
25 years old? Okay.
And that truck, it's a small factor truck, and everything in that truck was designed smaller to put on a smaller truck. And to do the capability work that we have done with that truck, I know the guys cleaned a lot of sewers this summer, but they also had some problems with that truck. It's getting like all of us, old.
Bill, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes. I'm more in favor of contracting this out and, like Mr. Riley said, gathering the data on the manpower aspect of this equation. I don't think we have any handle on that at all. And when we look at the cost of additional employees, that really becomes half of the overall cost of this project. It's not like it's insignificant. If we miss that mark, we could miss it big. And there's a kind of a well-known industrial engineering type formula that the number of people it takes to do a job is the number of people you put on the job. In other words, if you have a job being done by one person and all of a sudden you bring in an extra person to help them, they all kind of seem to stay busy, but you're just getting the same amount of work done. And I would like to see the time spent, if we do contract for 5 years, of monitoring the first year of the operation and see actually how many man hours are spent on that job to do 20% of the island. And then we have data that we can say, yeah, this would be worthwhile bringing in-house, buying a truck, hiring this much staff, because we know that this will get the job done. So that's kind of where I am with this. I've asked that question from the beginning in looking at the numbers that were put together with the ratio of the cost of the staff to the cost of the equipment, and that's kind of an unknown part of it. So that's where I stand at this point.
Brenda.
And I would agree with that.
Is that it?
That's it.
Buddy.
I too agree. I agree with Ted. I agree with John's idea of analysis. We don't do enough analysis, and we should. And Phil is spot on too. I think at this time we should go back, have it rebid, so we have that, see what it comes out to, and go from there. We need to. I think we need to stick to our budget of around 150, and we need to gather info, as Phil said. We really don't know what kind of manpower we need, and that'd be a way to do it. So I too would be in favor of rebidding it at this time.
Okay, I as chair, is staff, John or Lorinda, do you want to add anything at this point? This is your time to speak on this issue. If you
want to get the program going, whether we do it in-house or contracted, we need to get moving forward.
Yeah, well, when we made the decision after we took the bids the last time, I'm just going to put things on the table. We talked about hiring one full-time person, and we went to Canton Township. We met their people, and we saw what the certification's all about. So if we were going to do this in-house, we shouldn't approach it. If we were going to buy the truck and do it in-house, we shouldn't approach it where we understaff. I feel strongly that we could get by with one person, and I've talked to John about this, one full-time person, and then budget like $30,000 a year for part-time people, whether it's one or two people. Les says there would be some advantages as we think about this. We could buy a truck and replace a truck, and I'm just talking here to get the points on the table. And then when they weren't doing that work, we'd have the advantage of people that would be paid for by the sewer fund, but would also be able to do other things. So there's that advantage. As far as bidding it out, my thought is that if we can't get, like Section 1 of the community, if we hit our $150,000, we just terminate the rest of it and put it off till the next year. So we stay within budget. So it'd be easier to stay within budget doing that work, and if it takes 5.5 or 6 years, so what? What I'm hearing the four of you say, or five of you say, just trying to summarize, is that if we go out and bid it, and we're dissatisfied with that, we can always revisit purchasing a truck. And I forgot my other point. Oh, and that's my other point. So we've had this truck deal lingering here, and through this national purchase program, Minnesota, for this equipment. And you, John, I know have gone back and forth with the vendor a number of times. So would the proper action be is to try to make a decision tonight instead of putting it off again, so we could give our engineers instructions and or buy the truck or not buy the truck? I mean,
well, I think we need to, you know, this is an action item. We should move on it. Are you saying, do you want to enter another action item to go forth rebidding, or I don't even know?
Well, I think we could do one motion where we would, if the sentiment is, the majority here, that you would like to move forward with rebidding it and not buy the truck, that would be the motion. Recommend that we do not purchase the truck at this time and authorize our engineers to go out and rebid for the 5-year plan as we did before. With the threshold, we're going to keep our budget limit per year next year to $150,000.
I think
motion?
That would work.
Who's going to make it? You?
I'll make it.
Who said that, right? John? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Everybody clear on the motion? Not buy the truck at this time and authorize our engineers to rebid the 5 sections to be done over 5 years with the cap at $150,000 a year.
I'd just like to clarify the cap. I mean, we're going to put it out for bid. They're going to bid what they want. The cap is just our cap. We're not going to spend more than $150,000 a year.
Well, that would be one way of controlling it, yes.
Right, yeah. But I mean, we can't tell the bidders.
That's right. Valid point.
Yeah.
So the way I see that working is if the bid comes in the first year at $170,000, then we just cut off the amount of sewer pipe we're going to do.
Right, we may accept
and put it off till the next year.
We may accept that bid, but then tell the bidder we're only going to do $150,000 this year, and you're going to have to roll it over. Yeah.
They're bidding it by foot. It's
right.
It's by the sewer size and so many feet of this size.
I thought the last bid we had it in the 5 sections, and it all totaled up.
Each section was totaled.
Correct.
By year, and had a separate sheet that showed how many linear feet of.
So we were controlling the number of feet a year. We actually did the division of the.
Right.
I understand.
Within that area, right.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion or questions? I'll call for a vote then. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair will vote yes at this point.
5-1.
Okay. Guess that resolves that issue. Lorinda, item page 26, item number 2.
Yes, the next action item would be the agreement with Wayne County for supplemental priority winter road maintenance for the 2017-2018 season. This is a recommendation to the Township Board to enter into an agreement with Wayne County for priority winter maintenance services to the following local roads for the 2017-2018 winter snow season. Do you want me to read off the list?
Y'all have it in front of us.
Y'all have it in front of you. So
it's just the amount.
The township share in the cost for the 2017-2018 season is $21,319.82, which equates to about $996.25 per lane mile.
Actually down from what it was years ago.
Yeah, I've got. Oh, how
You have
much?
the history.
I've got a lot
the
of
history.
history.
Is on there.
What's
It keeps
the
going
high
down.
number? What's a high number that we're not paying now?
38 was the
38,
highest,
I think, was
and
the highest.
10,000 was
Back
the
in-
lowest.
Yeah,
It's all predicated on the year before.
right.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll support that.
Move and supported that the agreement with Wayne County for supplemental winter road maintenance be approved. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Oh, there's one
And Loretta,
May.
the
5-1.
minute should indicate some of the high numbers, that 38,000.
Okay, for like 2014.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. We, Lorinda, dump
Hold
the
on.
junk.
I was hoping Woody would be here tonight so he could talk about dump the junk. But anyways, I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday and Sunday from 9 until 4, the Open Space Greenways Committee is hosting their Dump the Junk Find a Treasure located at the DPW maintenance yard. There will be dumpsters available for them to dispose of items like large furniture, large logs, and shrubs. They'll also be accepting used tires. They'll have a dumpster dedicated for metal. And if you have a gently piece of furniture that you want to get rid of, or maybe a bicycle, please bring it down because somebody else may want to pick it up and use it. Please, no concrete or bricks will be accepted. You will be turned away at the gate. This is open only to Grosse Ile residents, and they will be checking for ID. The next one would be Wayne County is also hosting their Household Hazardous Waste event on October the 14th, Saturday, over at the Wayne County Community College, the Downriver campus on North Line Road. The event is only open for Wayne County residents, and you will need to show your ID there as well. Please get there early because they will cut you off in line. There's a lot of items that they will accept, some items that they will not accept. Radioactive material, anything that glows in the dark, they said. Explosives and ammunition, household waste, yard waste, commercial waste, industrial waste, and tires they will not take. No roofing shingles, no concrete, and no appliances. If you need any more information on how to dispose of these items, you can give them a call at 734-326-3936.
Wow, that's a mouthful. All the no's, what they
All the
won't accept.
no, because generally that's what they show up with.
Just to add, Woody mentioned we on the dump the junk. Also, the asphalt shingles will not
building
be accepted.
materials,
No timbers.
No railroad ties.
Yes.
Nothing like that. So you will be turned away at the gate.
Regarding the county household hazardous waste, will that be on our website?
It's already there, yes. So is Dump the Junks.
All right.
I have.
Moving on, are there any no discussion items tonight? The chairman's report, the only thing I want to mention is I had a discussion with Brian Pollock, who is the chairman of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee.
BPAC.
I was hoping he was going to be here tonight. I guess he couldn't. The idea was, well, and it was mentioned here at the meeting, but we were specifically talking about a couple of projects where we might want to work together. East River Road was in my mind, and for example, if we were to get some road thing approved, would it be possible in our road budget, East River Road is plenty wide, the pavement. It's wider than 20 feet or 24 feet. It's wider. And and when you stripe a road like that, there's a program that there's grant money available for, 90%. I was just wondering with Brian, and since he knows about these, is if we could use some of the widening we were going to do, or the existing width on East River, DPAC committee could apply for a grant to put a 3 or 4 foot bike and pedestrian shoulder. We already have it in our cost, just how we stripe it. Maybe they get a grant for it. It would help put that in. sort of a long-term thing. And then he brought up to me their desire. They're not coming to us for money, but maybe they could do a grant request to somehow put a walkway in between along Parkway from the bridge to Meridian. Right now, people that want to take a bicycle or walk to go over the county bridge, no safe place to walk except on the shoulder of the road. He was talking about that would be a priority of the bicycle committee, see if they couldn't get a bike path grant for that section. So anyway, bottom line is, this, after we talked a while, the thought was maybe he'd get 2 members of his commission, and maybe I'd get 2 members of our commission, and we'd have a joint meeting with them and just kick some things around.
I don't know if anybody's been downtown lately, but they have it all broken off for bikes downtown, which is amazing to think.
Right.
In Detroit, yeah. We're all around the stadiums and down Michigan Avenue and Cass, and they use the colors white and green for these paths, and they actually have a bike path or a bike lane in between 2 car lanes, which is amazing to me. That's almost like, to me, this no safety factor there, but that's what they have. Yeah, it's something.
I'm looking for a couple of people like Brenda. You might want to. Okay, Brenda would be one.
I'll talk to him.
And Budney. So we don't have a meeting date set yet. So unless anybody else wants to, Brenda and Budney.
Kind of coming back full circle, huh?
Yeah.
Bike Path Committee.
Yeah.
Was started here, right?
Started here.
Well, I thought it'd be good for our 2 commissions to get together and
No,
brainstorm some things. On East River, my thought was if they could apply for a grant, even if we don't have the right-of-way or anything yet, because a lot of people go along East River because they can look across to Canada.
The only public hearing that I attended since I've been in office that had a bigger attendance was when we were talking about putting a bike path down the East River. It was huge. And it wasn't favorable.
Okay. Well, the people that live there, I'm sure, have their own interests, but what I'm talking about is it would be attached to the road. It wouldn't be a separate path someplace. So,
right in the easement.
And as several people brought up tonight, it would be a safety issue.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Right. So, I'm done. Let's go around the table.
I have nothing more to say.
Nope.
Phil.
Just a question to Lorinda. Did we get another update on Wayne County on the bridge closure? Has anything formal come out on that? Or do you want to just comment on that now so that anybody listening might?
We had official word about periodic closing once a month. The next one will be on October the 19th from 9 until 3.
That's a Thursday?
That's Thursday, yes. Yes. And they're going to do that once a month, October, November, and December. And
It'll be November 16th and December 14th.
Right.
They're all Thursdays, and they're all 9 to 3.
All the same time, 9 to 3.
Have we got that up on our website now?
I didn't check today to see if it was up there.
Okay.
I don't know. So.
Thank you.
But the
That's all
official
I
word
have.
is out, yes.
Les.
Nothing further.
Ted. John.
Oh, sir, thank you.
Brenda.
Oh, I'm done.
Joe, you sat through the meeting tonight. Good? All right. You're a short timer. Joe operates and manages our wastewater treatment plant. You had nothing on the agenda tonight, so. Are you going to have anything on the agenda for our November meeting? Yeah. All right. That's a good idea. Thank you. All right. Anybody in the audience have a question before we adjourn? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion we adjourn the meeting
I support.
at 9:18.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.